Welcome to the Longevity Lab, the podcast for high performers who want to feel better, think clear, and live longer without becoming dependent on prescriptions. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Hitson, a holistic health expert, speaker, and founder of GoodDoctors.Health. If you're a leader, an executive, or someone struggling with a high-stress life, and you've been told your only option is a lifetime of medication, think again. In this space, we cut through the noise, challenge outdated assumptions, and give you real strategies to take back control of your health. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Longevity Lab. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Hitson. If you have already been prescribed high cholesterol, high blood pressure, or anti-anxiety medication, this episode is for you. These are the top 3 medications that I see consistently being prescribed to the people that I work with, executives, leaders, people who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, people who have high stress lives. And in addition, a lot of the individuals that I work with, I'm usually working with people who are getting into their 40s, 50s. They're starting to notice the aches and the pains, a little bit of slowing down. And usually of those 3, one of them is, the first real medication that they are being put on, that they're going to be on for the rest of their life. And, that kind of gets our attention, doesn't it? It's that first time when you realize, like, okay, I have to start taking care of myself. I need to start doing something. Now, let me be very straight. There's a whole population out there who takes those medications and thinks nothing of it and let me just go on about my day. Let me eat however I want to eat. Let me not exercise. Let me not manage any of this stress. Sure, that's that population, but chances are, if you've been listening to me, you don't fit into that at all. You don't want to be on medications for the rest of your life. You don't want to manage side effects upon side effects. And that's really the issue that I run into. It's not so much of being on the one, it's that over time, side effects start to build up. And so now, instead of being on 1, you're on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. And then pretty soon, people end up with these shopping bags full of different pills that they're taking, and they can't remember what they're taking each one of them for anymore. So I wanted to do this particular episode to at least address the big 3. And what are your options? What can you do other than just jumping behind the pharmacy line and getting another prescription? I want to start off with cholesterol because for me, it's kind of the simplest. First of all, cholesterol has become kind of a boogeyman amongst the heart disease. And when you really do dive into the research, I'm skeptical at best about the true relationship between high cholesterol and upcoming coronary events like heart attacks and strokes. Let's just be straight. That the research is a little bit skewed from a lot of our perspectives. And I do believe that the pharmaceutical industry has found a cash cow in statins and has been pushing that for years because it is an easy drug. It's very, very profitable. And, as far as imminent side effects, we don't see the bad ones, but there are side effects. And one of the number ones is muscle pain, muscle aches and pains. When we were doing a lot of work with regenerative medicine, I was so floored by how many individuals who are coming in for various joint problems. And we found out there was a real connection between their statins and how they were feeling in their bodies. And, a lot of individuals, they just blame those aches and those pains on getting older. But what if it's not? What if it is more related to something that you're taking? And the reason I really like to start with cholesterol is because, for the most part, I have found cholesterol to be one of the easier things to address. There is a particular omega that from a very specialized nutraceutical company that you have to get this particular nutraceutical from a physician. But this one, omega-3, I've seen do amazing amazing things with people's cholesterols, really turn a lot of numbers around, even get to the point where people are out of the danger zone. And it's with something that is good for you, that nourishes you. A good omega is not only great for your cholesterol, it's great for cognitive function, it's great for neurological function. There's so many benefits of an omega. As you're considering some of these medications, also consider some of the alternatives, like a very good omega. There's several other ones out there um, that we can recommend, but gosh, I really don't go much further past the omega most times because it just does the job. And then we add in some really good exercise. Let's not discount the impact that that can have on your cholesterol, which your body needs anyway. So now let's get into high blood pressure, especially amongst executives and people who, have a lot of stress. Blood pressure tends to be an issue. And some people, there's just a real solid genetic component. And this is definitely one where a lot of individuals, they want the magic supplement, they want the magic pill, they want something other than the blood pressure medication. They've been told a few things around diet and exercise that can absolutely help. And it's true. It really, really is true. If you want to deal with the root cause of hypertension, high blood pressure, you have to start there. I really have not had the same level of success with supplementation like what we've seen with cholesterol, but it is out there and it can be done. But the other factor that I just want to encourage each and every one of you who are really looking for an alternative to the hypertension medications is something as simple as breath work. And I know I am somebody who really did not get on the breath work bandwagon for a very long time. I just had a hard time believing that, 60 to 90 seconds of breathing was really going to do something for such significant health complications like this as hypertension. But I'm a convert. I have to say, I was wrong. I am so impressed by what I've been able to see that people can, just using the power of their breath, calming their system, switching their neurological system from fight or flight to the parasympathetic, to rest and digest. It's fascinating what can happen. And for a lot of us who are just kind of caught up in the throes of our day, and it's just one thing after the next, you could be absolutely shocked by what something so simple can yield, not only for your overall health, but your mental health and everything in between. Now let's talk about anti-anxiety. So there's a number of people that I get to work with who they've been on anti-anxiety, antidepressants. They've been on various ones, combinations of these medications for sometimes decades now. And it's become something that has just been a part of their life so long they don't even question it anymore. But for those of you who that's something that is being considered for you, or something that's being prescribed, and you're just wondering, is that the right step for me? Let me give you a few options. First of all, let's go back to what we've already been talking about with regards to cholesterol and high blood pressure. It is incredible what exercise can do for all of these conditions, including anxiety. I am so impressed by what a good walk can do. I am so impressed by what regular exercise, strength building, what it does, for your mental health in the moment. But what that does for the entirety of your body, for your metabolism. A lot of individuals, as we're getting older, we're struggling with weight, we're putting on the pounds, we're having all these hormonal issues. Exercise is a fantastic antidote. And so that's one of the things that we have to really look at is, what are you doing and is it working for you? Another major factor that I'm running into with a lot of people who have, the subtle anxiety, or, do these more mild symptoms, I am seeing a lot of individuals who are dealing with a borderline malnutrition. They're actually depleted in their nutrients, and that depletion is manifesting itself in these distress signals, this feeling that just something's just not quite right, and then labeling it anxiety. And I love whenever we just can address that specific deficiency, how much those anxiety symptoms, that overall inner tension, it just gets released. And it can be so much better. I've One of the problems that we run into is in the standard of care. If you walk into your doctor's office and you say, I have anxiety, well, the standard of care is either therapy or here's a prescription. It's really not even in the procedure manual to order any kind of blood work to see what else could be going on, what else could be contributing to that. It's just not how that works. Again, sometimes I wonder because anti-anxiety drugs have become such a big business in the pharmaceutical world, maybe do they even want us to look any deeper? Do they want us to investigate some potential root causes? It's an excellent question. So when we're looking at the big three, cholesterol, hypertension, antidepressants, anti-anxieties, and when you look at there's just such a common thread amongst all of them. What if you don't have like three different problems? What if you have really one problem and that's your overall lifestyle and some very basic, very simple, and very energizing modifications could make all the difference in the world for you. The other problems that we keep seeing time and time again, and I've mentioned this before, the weight piling on, the hormone imbalances, and this just overall lack of energy. If we boil all of this down, really when we get to the core of it, it's how are you fueling your body? Are you just depleted because you haven't really put any true fuel in? I was just recently on a trip to New York City. My daughter lives up there, and she was very excited to show me the city from a local's perspective and to really take me around. So we didn't do any of the touristy things. We were very much in this, the center of the various neighborhoods and popping in and out of the subway and just doing New York City the way, a 20-year-old does New York City. One of the things that I was so taken aback by when being in such a different environment was how hard it was in that city to find good nutrient food. You're in the city of millions of people. There's a restaurant on like every single corner. Most of them were just filled with carbohydrates and pastries and a bunch of just empty calories. There's coffee everywhere you could look. There was alcohol in abundance. But to find a really good green leafy salad, I ran into very few menus that even offered nutrient dense food. And as I was asking her, because I'm looking, at her and I'm looking at all the people around, I mean, you can just see the malnutrition. You can see the malnourishment. It's, they're not pasty white because they haven't seen the sun, which they haven't, but they're just pale because there's no there's nothing to color their skin. There's no nutrients. They have that pallor. And whenever I was really talking to her about it, she's like, "Yeah, well, it's so typical. You grab a bagel for breakfast because they're cheap and they're easy, and then you grab your 99-cent slice of pizza along the way somewhere, and maybe at some point you could get a smoothie if for some nutritional value." And it really did kind of it made me sad. And again, looking around, you're looking at these people, and again, they just don't look healthy. They don't act healthy. They don't have that just sheer fueling. You can see just the drain of that environment. And it really made me think, a lot of us who are just in the throes of our corporate lives, in the throes of the work a day, how many of us are sacrificing as well? How many of us are making those concerted efforts to get what our bodies are asking for, to deliver on the things that we care about in our lives? So this particular episode, again, it's for those of us who we've gone this far, but is it time to make some adjustments? Is it time to make some revisions? Is it time to think just a little bit differently? And if you don't want to go on those medications, if you want to avoid the need for ever being on them, please do just check us out at GoodDoctors.Health. We're here to help you. We are here for the leaders and the people who are trying to make a difference in their world, however big or however small. We want to keep you going so you can fuel the world with the great things that you do. So glad you could join us today on the Longevity Lab. I'm your host, Dr. Jae Hitson. Thank you for listening. If this episode hit home for you and you're ready to take the next steps toward a medication-free, energy-full life, don't do it alone. Visit GoodDoctors.Health to connect with our team and start uncovering the root causes of what's really going on with your body. You were built for more than surviving. You were made to lead, to build, to thrive, and your health should support that. Thanks for joining me on the Longevity Lab. And until next time, stay strong, stay sharp, and stay in the game.